Namaskar, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Namrata Singh and you are watching Perspective. While we often talk about junk food, lack of exercise and lifestyle habits as key contributors to obesity, one major factor has quietly escaped attention, and that is edible oil. Obesity is now a growing public health concern in India, affecting people of all ages and increasing the risk of serious non-communicable diseases like diabetes, heart disease and high blood pressure. The rise is being driven by unhealthy diets, sedentary lifestyles and a growing shift towards processed and calorie-dense foods. Recognizing the urgency, Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently flagged the issue in his Mann Ki Baat address. He pointed to the excessive use of oil in our daily diets as a hidden contributor to weight gain and urged people to cut down. Let's listen in to what the Prime Minister has said.
बढ़ती ओबेसिटी पूरी दुनिया के लिए एक बड़ा चैलेंज है। मैंने मन की बात कार्यक्रम में भी इस पर विस्तार से चर्चा की थी। इसके लिए अपने खान-पान में 10% ऑयल कम करने का चैलेंज भी शुरू किया था। मैं एक बार फिर देशवासियों से, दुनिया भर के लोगों को इस चैलेंज से जुड़ने का आह्वान करता हूं। अपने खाने में कैसे हम कम से कम 10% ऑयल कंजम्पशन कम करें, इसके लिए जागरूकता फैलानी है। ऑयल की खपत कम करना, अनहेल्दी डाइट से बचना और योग करना, ये बेहतर फिटनेस की जड़ी बूटी है।
So as the PM rightly mentioned, even a tablespoon of oil packs about 120 calories. Over time, excessive consumption can lead to significant weight gain and obesity. So what really causes obesity and how can we build healthier habits in our homes and communities? To discuss this and much more, I'm joined by a very eminent panel of guests. I'm pleased to welcome two distinguished guests joining us virtually. Dr. Parmeet Kaur, Chief Dietitian, AIIMS, New Delhi. We also have Dr. Sanjay Kalra, Treasurer, International Society of Endocrinology and Vice President, South Asian Obesity Forum. Thank you both for being here and welcome to Sansad TV.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Let me begin the discussion with you, Dr. Kalra. The Prime Minister has repeatedly urged people to reduce oil consumption by at least 10% to tackle the growing obesity crisis. And today, obesity has become a serious public health concern in India, cutting across age groups. In fact, reportedly, we now rank among the top 10 countries globally in terms of obesity. So how do you see this growing trend and what do they tell us about the direction we are heading as a country when it comes to public health and obesity?
Our respected Prime Minister has taken the right lead. He has taken the right step. And he leads by practice, by example. Obesity is a major issue for us now. It is a clinical problem. It is a public health problem. It impacts not only the individual, the person living with obesity, but also their family, the society, and the country. Our economy suffers because of obesity. It's a disease that we cannot ignore. And we are grateful to the Prime Minister for leading by example, like I said. And he has given us a very simple, a very pragmatic, a very practical means of reducing our calorie intake. Apart from the emphasis that he lays on physical activity and yoga, he has also taught us a 10% change, which may seem minor, but you reduce your cooking oil by 10% every month. And then you see the advantages, the health advantages, and of course, the economic advantages. So the future, you can be pessimistic and you can say that we are going to be the obesity capital of the world. But I would find optimism in this. We can be optimistic and we can call ourselves the obesity care capital, the obesity prevention capital of the world. And reducing cooking oil by 10% is a solid start towards achieving this.
Okay. So, Dr. Kaur, Prime Minister Modi also issued a serious warning saying that by, 2050, over 440 million Indians could be living with obesity. And that's 1 in every 8 person is suffering from obesity. So what do you make of these numbers and why are obesity rates rising so sharply in India even compared to many developed countries?
These numbers, unfortunately, are true. That's the sad part. Our genes are such that we are predisposed to obesity. We have always lived in cycles of feasting and famine. I think Dr. Kaur and myself, and perhaps you, we are the first generation in independent India not to have experienced famine. So our genes are wired towards the fact that when we have enough food to eat, we store it in our body. We store it as adipose tissue or fat. The next year there is famine, we burn up that fat. Similar to what a camel would do. Similar to what a camel would do in the desert. She takes a lot of water, stores it, and then uses it. But now there is no famine anymore. Food is available. It is ubiquitous. It is available at the push of a button. So we just keep on eating and eating more. We keep on storing more. And then this storage overflows. It overflows from our fat tissue into other parts of the body, and it causes complications. The second thing is lack of exercise. So our environment, the heat, the way our cities are planned, the way our lifestyle is changing, we don't exercise too much. And that's another reason why we are not able to burn the fuel that we eat. All this is causing obesity. Along with this, other things like pollution, changes in our genetics, epigenetic phenomena, these are causing complications of obesity. And we are ending up with not only obesity, but also increased rates of diabetes, heart failure, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And all these finally lead to a premature death. They lead to lots of complications and shortening of lifespan.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Dr. Kaur, how does excess oil consumption actually lead to obesity? We know oil are calorie dense. So, when used in large amounts, how does that contribute to weight gain and fat storage in the body over time?
So if we talk about any food, it has basically three components: carbohydrate, fats, and protein. And out of these three, fats, 1 gram of fat contains 9 calories. And in a day, ideally, we should be consuming around 20 to 30 grams of oil.
Okay.
So firstly, I would like to describe what does 10% reduction of oil means to a common man. So if a person is taking around 30 grams of oil, so 10% of 30 will be 3 grams. And 3 grams, if a person is reducing 3 grams of oil, so 1 gram has 9 calories, so 27 calories one can reduce in a day. And the sum will add over the weeks, over the months, over the years, and so one can create a balance, deficit balance, and help to manage weight, because further weight reduction requires aggressive management. But we have to go by 10% initially, and slowly even less than that. And to adopt that, we have to carefully look what we are eating in our day-to-day diet. It is very important because in the present time, packaged food is in plenty, and all these packaged food contains high amount of sugar, oils, and sodium. And all these things, sugar, sodium, and salt together, increases food craving. A
Okay.
person tends to eat more because it tastes very good on the tongue, and a person likes to have more of such food. So switching over to home cooked food than to packaged food is very important in cutting down on the total calories as well as on total fat intake.
Okay.
Besides this, we have to adopt healthy eating habits right from breakfast, evening snack, lunch, and then dinner. All these things are to be carefully planned in a day.
Okay, we should avoid processed food and adopt healthy eating lifestyle. So, Dr. Kalra, how exactly do we become obese? If you could explain, is it simply about overeating, or is obesity now recognized as a medical condition? For our viewers, could you also explain the difference between being overweight and being obese?
Thank you. These are important questions. So it's not just about overeating and under-exercising. There are multiple things. Let's try to put it in simple terms. The brain talks to the bowel, that is our gut. So see the B and B, the brain talking to the bowel.
Okay.
When we are hungry, the upper part of our stomach, the upper part of the bowel, sends signals to the brain. These are hungry signals. So the stomach says, I'm hungry. The brain also wakes up and the brain says, I'm hungry. The brain tells the bowel, begin eating. Now, as we begin eating, let's say we see food, we smell food, we eat it, then the food goes down to the lower part of the intestine. And then suddenly the hormones change. And instead of hungry hormones, we have houseful hormones. So the houseful hormones from the lower part of the gut, they again go and speak to the brain. And the brain gets to know, yeah, now I'm houseful. I need to stop eating. The brain secretes its own neurotransmitters, which are houseful hormones. If the brain and the bowel speak to each other properly, they listen to each other properly, our appetite remains stable. Our intake remains stable. In obesity, what happens is either the brain gets unwired, so it stops understanding when to secrete hungry hormones, when to secrete houseful hormones, or the bowel gets upset. It forgets how to secrete these hormones, especially the houseful hormones, or the bowel and brain stop talking to each other properly, listening to each other properly. So two B's. Now let me just add two more B's to this. The third B is the beta cell, that is the pancreas. The beta cell secretes insulin. Too much of insulin will make us hungry. Too much of glucagon, that is the opposing hormone, will make us satiated. It will make us feel full. If there is a disturbance here, like we have in diabetes, then again, this hunger and satiety system gets imbalanced. The fourth B is our bulk, that is our fat tissue. Our fat tissue secretes different kinds of hormones. First of all, it secretes houseful hormones like leptin. So leptin goes to the brain, it goes to the bowel, it says, now stop eating. But if there is leptin resistance, then we won't listen to what leptin is saying, so we'll just keep on eating more. There are also hormones in the bowel which make us hungry, which clean up all the bad chemicals. And then there are hormones which create bad chemicals. These are inflammations, like interleukin 6. So now let's summarize. The bowel, the brain, the beta cell, and the bulk or adipose tissue, they're supposed to talk to each other through a system of houseful and hungry hormones, happy hormones, and maybe, sad or sick hormones. When this imbalance occurs, a vicious cycle is created. So for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, let's say I start eating pizzas, or I start splurging on, my favorite these days is rasmalai. So for 1 or 2, 3 days, I'll feel there's nothing wrong. Let me eat more. But within a few days, the brain just forgets how much rasmalai or how much pizza is healthy for me. It goes into something called hedonistic eating, just for the joy of eating. And before I know it, I'm caught in a vicious cycle of obesity. This vicious cycle of obesity is self-propagating because then the bad hormones, the inflammatory hormones keep on increasing. And then there is resistance to those houseful hormones, like leptin resistance. So because of this, then we are not able to come out of that rut. Worse happens, there is something called a metabolic set point in the brain. So, like our temperature remains normal. It remains around 98.6 degrees. If we are thirsty, we drink more. If we are not thirsty, we drink less. Similarly, there is a metabolic set point for weight in the brain. This gets reset. So supposing I was happy at 80 kg, but then I got into wrong lifestyle habits. I reached 85 kg. My brain is going to reset itself, and now it's going to protect the 85 kg weight. It's not going to allow me to come down. We have to work extra hard with the help of the dietitian, with the help of medicines to bring it down. So this is how, as a country, we are all getting into this vicious cycle of obesity.
Okay, so it's like, when we are happy, we eat. When we are sad, we eat. Hormone imbalance leads to obesity, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
The beauty is actually, our Indic religions are philosophy. All our philosophy, whether you look at any religion from India, Jainism, Buddhism, Hinduism, everybody tells you to eat in moderation.
Right.
The Jain philosophy would be the best. Buddhist philosophy, moderation, avoid hoarding, avoid violence to plants and animals. And still we are getting stuck in this. We are just forgetting our old philosophy.
Right. So Dr. Kalra mentioned that, moderation is very important. Dr. Kaur, the WHO defines obesity as excess fat that poses a health risk, and BMI is the standard tool used to measure it. So could you explain what BMI is and what the healthy BMI range should be for adults?
BMI is body mass index, And this is the weight in kgs upon height in meter square, and this can be easily calculated by anybody at home, because nowadays these calculators are available online.
Okay.
And one can one has to just put the weight and height, and one can know the BMI. Although WHO guidelines have a different range, but for Asians we have a little lower range. So below 23 is considered normal, and if it is above 23, then there is overweight, and then further increase is obesity. Uh, so one has to be cautious about the BMI also.
Look at your height. If you're a male, your height divided by 100. So let's say my height is 180 centimeters divided by 100, minus 100, that is 80.
Okay.
So 100 minus 80, 180 minus 100, that's 80. 80 kg should be my ideal weight. If I were a lady, then height in centimeters minus 105. So let's say my height is 160 centimeters as a lady, minus 105, that's 55. So 55 kg should be my ideal weight.
Okay.
This is something that all of us can do immediately.
Okay, okay. But Dr. Kalra, you know, there is one thing prominent which we have noticed, that a 2024 Lancet study shows a sharp rise in obesity in India, especially among women. And the numbers have jumped from, 1.2% to 9.8% in women, and 0.5% to 5.4% in men. And these figures are quite alarming. Why do you think obesity is rising faster among women, and what are the key factors driving this trend?
Biology, psychology, and sociology, all three of them. So in medicine, we talk about the biopsychosocial model of health. In nutrition also, you have to be aware that all these factors influence our health and nutrition. So biologically, during pregnancy, weight gain will occur, gestational weight gain, and all of it does not go back after pregnancy. Women may use oral contraceptives, which also may be associated with a little bit of weight gain. Then premenstrual syndrome, if women have, that is associated with fluid retention, and it might be associated with weight gain. So that's biology. Psychology, like you said, when you're happy, you eat. When you're sad, you eat. Women in general are more emotional, and emotions are associated with eating. The third is sociology. It's easy to tell someone, why don't you go out for a walk in the evening? Why don't you go to the gym? But is it socially acceptable? Is it socially safe? Many of our country women will answer, unfortunately, in the negative. So sociology or the social environment also doesn't allow us to exercise as much as we would. And then, of course, the responsibility that women have, they have a million things to do. I look at my mother, my wife, the book says women hold up half the sky, but I think at home, my mom and my wife, my daughter-in-law, they hold up the entire family. They don't have time to look after themselves. They are so busy looking after everyone else. So that's why women are facing more obesity. This also calls for added emphasis on women's health. And thank you, madam, for raising this point.
Okay. So, Dr. Kaur, India has launched initiatives like Fit India, Poshan Abhiyan, Eat Right India, among others, to promote healthier lifestyle. As we move into Amrit Kal, do you think strengthening public health systems, encouraging sustainable food habits, and raising awareness are key to reversing the obesity trend and protecting future generations?
Yeah, absolutely. It is very important to generate awareness among masses, especially because nowadays packaged food is available in plenty, and one has to teach the common man how to read a food label, how to know how much fat it contains, sodium it contains, calories it contains. It is not just opening packaged food and throwing it in the empty pack in the dustbin. One has to understand also what the label means. And then secondly, we have to shift back to home cooked, home based cooking.
Okay.
And then besides this, we have to promote healthy cooking habits. This involves steaming, boiling, roasting, because roasting makhanas, nowadays we get butter popcorns. Instead, if we are having roasted popcorns, it is a better option. So one has to create awareness. And then also many women or anybody who is cooking at home, they are just pouring oil while cooking in the pans, not measuring oil. So measurement of, we have to generate awareness regarding use of measuring spoons for putting oil while cooking, that it should not be more than teaspoons or 1 teaspoon. One doesn't have to just pour in the oil. So that is very important. And then nowadays lot of non-stick pans are available. It like when a person is when we are cooking in these pans, one can reduce the amount of oil. Although it is very important that we have to also judge its safety, because Teflon is considered toxic. Ceramic based, they are better. Even cast iron pans are better. So, and if there are scratches on the pan, we have to discard them. So, all these utensils, they are available in the market, and people are using it. That is why I mentioned about it. That even if you're using pans, you have to use with caution and adopt like read what is the right chemicals that should be there in the pan, and then only use it. Many people, they have a habit of keeping pan on the stove, and the fumes they keep generating. So that practice has to be avoided, because it can be toxic and lead to cancer and hormonal imbalance. So many diseases, they are related to it. So one has to use it with caution. And besides this, we have to generate awareness regarding that it is not only the visible fat which is of importance, even the invisible fat, that is also of very much important. That is also equally important, because if we, generally what happens is there is an option of corn chart or roasted peanut.
Right.
So if a person is having corn chart, it will not have any fat in that. But if 10 grams of peanuts are there, then 5 to 6 gram of oil or fat is going. And if your requirement is around 20 grams, then 6 gram has gone in the peanuts. So one doesn't know about it. So visible fat, invisible fat, both are equally important in daily consumption. And and even the milk. Milk is also very important source of fat in our daily diet, because nowadays lot of milk varieties are available: skim milk, toned milk, double toned milk, full fat cream. So by going if a person wants to reduce overall fat intake, oil intake, one has to go for less fat options,
So
even
should
for
one,
curd.
so should an adult
Yeah.
be using a full fat milk or low fat? What do you suggest?
See, total calorie should, we have to look how much is the total consumption.
Okay.
If a person has to consume 30 grams from visible and invisible, then it should be total 30 gram. Besides this, type of fat is also very important.
Okay.
Saturated, monounsaturated, or poly. Because if there is a milk fat, that it will be more of saturated fat. So type of fat is also important. So it is better to go for low fat options in
Okay.
milk. Even for curd, which is nowadays it is available in package form. Many women, they are not preparing curd at home, they are buying packaged curd. So one has to see how much fat it is containing.
Okay.
So reading food labels is very important. And
So, yeah.
like I said about visible and invisible fats, that is also equally important.
So, ma'am, as a dietitian, what simple tips would you suggest to help people cut down on oil in their daily cooking without compromising on taste? Because also
So
there are a lot of myths associated with non-stick cooking. You just explained though.
So this is that is why I said about non-stick pans. So if it is even cast iron can be used, and the best policy is to avoid frying or shallow frying or deep frying. One has to adopt steaming, boiling, or roasting. these cooking practices. And then let me just suggest a simple meal plan. Then it will it will be very easy to understand what I would like, I am looking forward to convey. Like if a person generally begins with poha or upma in India, and then what happens is that first the vegetables, they are fried well. Oil is put and vegetables are fried in that. So instead
Okay.
of frying vegetables, one can steam the vegetables with just 1 teaspoon of oil. One can put some water in that and steam the vegetables, and not to put peanuts in plenty, because they contain lot of fat in that, more than 50% fat
Okay.
in peanuts. And then like one can have steaming vegetables rather than frying vegetables in upma and poha. And like mid morning, generally one can have a fruit. And then for lunch, one can avoid putting oil or ghee on chapatis. You can save easily 3 grams in that of
Oh,
easily. And then in dal or sabji, not more than 1 teaspoon of oil. And for evening snack, again, I will recommend having corn chaat rather than having this roasted peanuts. Corn chaat is always a better option. And even butter popcorns, these are to be avoided. Even the biscuits, generally biscuits uh, is like every day a person is consuming, every household is consuming biscuits with tea in India. And if a person is having 2 cream biscuits, then 6 to 8 grams of fat is going in from these 2 biscuits. So one doesn't have to go by taste and avoid biscuits. Instead of biscuits, one can have a few nuts, bhuna chana, murmura, or sprouts, all these. And biscuits and rusk, they also need to be avoided if a person wants to cut down on invisible fat intake.
okay, okay. So basically, healthy cooking is necessary for healthy lifestyle. And before we
And
wrap up,
healthy food choices. And
and food
healthy
choices, healthy food choices.
choices. Yeah.
Exactly. Before we wrap up, I'd like to hear your closing thoughts, Dr. Kalra. What would be your key message to our viewers on how they can combat obesity and adopt a healthier lifestyle?
We need to start right now with ourselves. If you live with overweight or obesity, overweight is BMI between 23 and 25, try to reduce that. If you
Okay.
live with obesity, BMI more than 25, try even harder. If you are lucky enough not to be obese or overweight, motivate people around you. Just to summarize what Madam said, P is for preferences and procurement. Apart from what Ma'am said, you also prefer vegetables which have intrinsic water in them. They are easier to cook. P is also for pre-preparation. You might want to soak your dal or meat in water. While you are kneading the flour, making the dough for your chapati, you can add milk or curd to it to make it softer so that you don't need to put oil or ghee on it later on. Preparation would be your policies: steaming, boiling, poaching, air frying instead of frying. And then pragmatic placement in the OPD. Use a narrow nozzle bottle where you keep oil. Don't keep your oil in a container which has a big, huge opening.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you will end up pouring it. And you can use an oil brush if you want. These are
Okay.
easily available. P is for plating also. Accompaniments on the table: spices and curd instead of butter and margarine. And then preservation, try dry pickles instead of pickles with a lot of oil. So simple ways, if we start this along with a little bit of exercise and physical activity, I'm sure we'll be called, and we hope to come back on Sansad TV sometime later and be happy that we are the obesity care capital of the world.
Okay, definitely. As our guests rightly pointed out, and as Prime Minister Modi emphasized, even small changes in our daily food habits can pave the way for a healthier, stronger and disease-free future. With that, we wrap up this edition of Perspective. A big thank you to Dr. Kaur and Dr. Kalra for sharing their insights. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. Stay tuned and keep watching Sansad TV.